4th overall last year, Dan Martin of GARMIN-SHARP has had his best ever season, with wins in the Vuelta a Catalunya, Liège-Bastogne-Liège and a stage of the Tour de France. The last part of the season hasn't been smooth though for Martin. He crashed out of the Vuelta and then crashed again during the World Road Championships. However, Martin was one of the strongest riders at the recent Giro di Lombardia, so expect the Irishman to be prominent every time the road heads upwards. The Tour of Beijing will be the last ever World Tour race for the VACANSOLEIL team, and also, it seems, for their Spanish classic specialist Juan Antonio FLECHA. The 36-year-old began his career in 2002 with Banesto, and has gone on to take a stage win at the Tour de France, a win in Het Volk, and on 3 occasions he finished on the podium at Paris-Roubaix, never quite managing to reach the top step. We can be sure to see FLECHA on the attack at this Tour of Beijing, and with a 13th place at the recent Giro di Lombardia, it appears he has the form to finish off his career in fine style. It took until August for ORICA GREENEDGE's Michael Matthews to notch up his first win of the season, a stage win at the Tour of Utah, but it set the ball rolling. Soon after, he took the start line of his first ever Grand Tour, the Vuelta a España, and proceeded to take 2 stage wins as well as 1 third place. Matthews is keen to make hay while the sun shines, and will hope to use his current condition to take a further win or 2 in Beijing. What a year it's been for Rui Costa of Movistar. Successfully defending his Tour de Suisse crown, he then went on to win 2 stages of the Tour de France in dominating fashion. However, few could have predicted what would come next. At the World Championships, Costa single-handedly stole the show from the mighty Italian and Spanish teams, becoming the first ever Portuguese world champion. Costa will be motivated to show his new jersey off in Beijing, and as it seems apparent that he is determined to use white shorts with it, it will be hard to miss him in his last race for Movistar. Team Sky Pro Cycling signed David Lopez from Movistar at the end of last year as a support rider for their GC guys. Things started off well. He was key to helping Richie Porte take victory in Paris-Nice, and then came close to a stage victory himself on the last day of the Vuelta a Catalunya. At the Tour de France, Lopez didn't appear to be on quite the same form, but a month later he took his first victory of the season on stage 6 of the Eneco Tour, and then proceeded to finish 4th overall at the Tour of Britain despite riding in support of Bradley Wiggins. Could Beijing be Lopez's chance to be team leader? We think it could be. The Tour of Beijing will be the last outing for Matthias Frank in the colours of BMC before he heads off to IAM Cycling for 2014. Frank led his home race, the Tour de Suisse, in June of this year, eventually finishing 5th overall. This was followed by a surprise non-selection for BMC's Tour de France team. However, Frank used his form to take back-to-back stage wins in the mountains at the Tour of Austria, and then a month later he finished 2nd overall behind teammate TJ Van Garderen at the US Pro Challenge. Frank is known for his attacking style, so don't be surprised to see him animate a stage or 2 in Beijing. France is still waiting for its next Bernardino, but the pressure of being seen as the next French champion often seems to be the downfall of their young prospects. However, along with Warren Barguil, Romain Bardet of AG2R appears to be the real deal. At just 22 years of age, he finished 15th overall in his first Tour de France this year, and quickly followed that up with an overall win at the Tour de l'Ain. It might not be the biggest race in the world, but he did have to beat the likes of Luis Leon Sanchez and Thibaut Pinot. Recent race results have suggested that he's still feeling strong, and AG2R will be keen for him to pick up some World Tour points here. It's been a tough year for Ivan Basso. The 35-year-old had been aiming for a podium spot at the Giro d'Italia, but a severe saddle sore prevented him from even taking the start. The enforced rest meant that he wasn't able to gain enough fitness to race the Tour de France, instead opting to get a result at the Vuelta. However, Basso succumbed to hypothermia and didn't finish stage 14. Basso's best result this year remains a 3rd place on a stage of the Vuelta a Burgos, but he'll be desperately looking to change that by the end of the Tour of Beijing. It's been a year of highs and lows for the young French sprinter Nacer of Francis de Jeux. A stage win at the Tour of Oman in February was quickly followed by a win in the opening stage of Paris-Nice. He went into the Giro d'Italia with high hopes, but came up against a Mark Cavendish in dominant form. The Tour de France was a disaster for Bouhanni, who got ill and failed to finish stage 6. However, since then he's been exceptional, taking 5 wins in a 6-week period. With the 3 big sprinters missing in Beijing, this is a great opportunity for him to add to that tally. Elia Viviani of Cannondale is no stranger to Beijing. In fact, he's taken a stage victory there on every occasion that the race has been run. That might only be 2 editions, but hey, it's still consistent. In the last part of the season, Viviani won 2 stages and the overall at the Tour of Elk Grove, the Dutch Food Valley Classic and a stage of the Tour of Britain. So he's been showing no signs of fatigue despite having completed 83 race days this season.
Enough tension on the cable, or the L screw is too far in. To check if it's the cable tension, push the mech upwards using your finger and thumb